Did you ever have to smack a girl in self-defense in school, Dank?
No, but I used to work as a bouncer, so I've had to. Right, I would see when it's two big, massive roid heads full of cocaine. Right, I would 100 times over rather break them up than two girls. Jesus Christ! Because if it's two big guys, they're throwing punches. You get into the middle of them and you push them back, and they're like 9 times out of 10, they're not going to try and hit you. They'll try and punch past you, but they'll try and be cool with you. But they'll still.
They
try
might
and
even
get
low
to each
key be
other.
happy to stop fighting.
Yeah, some of them are. Like some guy will use you as the shield, you're lucky he's holding me back, like that type of shit. But see when it's two girls and you're in the hair trying to untangle fingers out the hair and everything, and then you can't tell what hair's real and isn't because the extensions have come out and stuff like that, and it's just it is an absolute nightmare. But one of the worst ones that happened to me was but also see, as someone who's worked in security, anytime there's a fight, almost 100% of the time, it's over a woman. A girl has been involved at some point. Some guy brushed against a guy's arse when he walked past the bar. He said something he shouldn't have or whatever. Or someone is now dating this guy's ex and he wants to go up and say some shit. It's always been stuff like that. But there was two girls fighting. I'm getting in, and one girl is on the ground. She's on her knees. And they're just throwing wild punches each other. You know when girls fight.
Two girls fighting.
Two girls.
Yeah.
I'm like two ghettos. Well, okay, that's a little bold, but when two ghettos fight,
girls.
it is a rough deal when two ghettos fight. All right,
that's kind of racist about my accent, would it?
Uno reverse.
It's the same as Sargon of Akkad. I can't say his real name. Carl, I call him Carl, and not Carl. Well, I can't do that. I get Carl. But basically, one girl's on her knee, and you know how whenever girls just grab the hair, pull the head down, and just wildly throw 100 punches, maybe one of them lands, right? So one girl's on her knees, and I'm in between them, trying to use my body to block the punches because it's girls, they don't hurt, right? But I'm trying to untangle the hair. The girl behind me had reached through the gap under my legs, and she couldn't see. She then grabs my crotch and just crushes from behind me, and I'm sitting shouting at her, going, "It's me! That's me! You fucking grabbed!" and everything like that. She dug her fucking nails in because she thought it was the other girl, so she's trying to dig her nails to hurt her. I ended up after it. She's outside, her mascara's all down her face. She's all fucked up from the fight, and she came up "I'm really sorry. I didn't know that was you. I'm sorry." And I'm like, it's fine. I went into the toilet for a piss. I've got scratches all over my dick, right? All over my balls, all over the inside of my leg, fucking everything. And then I had to go home to my wife, funny story, this girl, man,
believe me.
Yeah. No, luckily, there was witnesses and all that as well. But one of them involving a woman, this was, and I was impressed by this, even though I was almost blinded for life. Right, I shut my eyes just in time. Two big guys, long story, but these guys had a problem with each other, and we always had to keep them apart. In this bar that I was working in, right? But then one day it came to a head and they ended up fighting. So we get in and there's 3 of us getting in the middle of it because it wasn't just these two guys, it was all their friends jumped in as well. Sure. So we're trying to form the wall in the middle of them to keep them apart, but the two main guys are fighting. I try and get into the middle of them, and just as I'm pushing the big guy away, this guy was 6'7", he was a fucking big dude, right? The other guy's girlfriend has ran behind him and and she'd grabbed a glass and jumped on a stool, jumped on a table. Remember the fucking end scene for fucking, what was that fucking Looney Tunes basketball fucking movie?
Yeah. Space Jam.
Space Jam. She goes leaping through the fucking air like that and just smashes the glass right down in the guy's head. But I shut my eyes just in time, and just tons of tiny shards of glass hit me in the face. A couple stuck and everything, but and I was cut, but it was little tiny cuts. and everything. But then we were trying to, after she smashed the glass, that was it. All the girls got up and it was a fucking riot. We had to call the police. And we're like grabbing people and wrestling them out the club. But then as soon as we come back in to break up the rest of the fight, that person we just threw out would come back in, man, and like keep fighting and everything. So yeah, that was a fucked up night. But that's the thing is, even though I was nearly blinded, it was fucking impressive. Like she got fucking air, and she hit her target fucking dead on. I mean, I was angry, but you know, I respect her.
So you went to the. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting our own edge. You went to the fertility place, jerked off in a little office, and then handed it over.
Yeah, no magazines, no TV, no nothing. I had to connect to their Wi-Fi on my fucking phone because there was no signal, and I just went, "What is the weirdest fucking hentai that I can look up to have their sysadmin fucking freak out?" And I shit, man, nah. I just googled pictures of like I think I literally went, "Porn, what do I do again?" And I went on to Google and typed in like big boobs and just like went into like images. And I shit, because I don't fucking
like a child.
Safe search.
Off. But it ended up like I had to come out. And the problem is you come out into a waiting room of everyone who knows you've just had a wank, and not everyone's there for a wank. There's women there as well, and they tell you if there's no nurse, keep the jar in your armpit to keep the sperm warm. And all that. So I was just sitting with like a jug of cum in my armpit for like 5 minutes and nobody came. So I went outside for a smoke. And then the nurse came and went, "Where is he?" And people in the waiting room went, "He's outside smoking." And she was not fucking happy with me. She was like really upset. And like in the car park, I'm just handing over like a jar of cum to the fucking nurse.
I've done this twice. Yeah. So we had hope really quickly, but for Colin, there was this delay. It turned out it was on my wife's side, a little foul up with the C-section, but we didn't know why we weren't having a kid, so we got me tested. The first time I go in there, and they gave me like a jar to take home, and they're like, "Wank in this thing, drive straight over and do the thing." And the test went well, but I guess they do it more than once. And they're like, "Yeah, so here's a little sample collector. You can go home, do whatever." And I'm like, "Don't you have like wank banks right here?" And they're like, "Yeah, we do, but you can go home." And I'm like, "Nah,
I don't make a trip.
I'm here already, you know, like I'm good to go." And, you know, you have to like abstain for 2 or 3 days. But so I was ready. I wasn't ready to abstain longer. Like I did. Let's go right now. I'm all pent up. I'm ready. I'm a finely tuned athlete and I'm peaking today. So they put me in a little wank bank and there were magazines there worn out. Pages missing, folded where folds don't belong. Like these were slut magazines that man had passed between them for, you know, I'm talking about the magazines themselves, not the pictures. The women were lovely, I'm sure, but the magazines, they were passed from guy to guy to guy.
Okay.
And but you know, I made it work.
Things I've seen.
Yeah. If those magazines could talk, they'd have one story to tell again.
I like the fact that pages were folded as if someone wanted to keep their place. Like, I'll be back.
Yeah. Big folds across the hill.
Continued.
Someone was manhandling these magazines. Like were they stored up in a tube at point? I don't know. But and when I got out there, this is the part I didn't like. I've got my sample, and there's like a nurse behind a counter. I didn't have to wait. They were like ready for me. And she goes, "Okay." And I'm like, "Right here in front of me? You're checking out the size of my load?"
Put enough in there. So she might have to be like, did you miss?"
No matter how much I gave, I would go out with a comment like that. Like, even if not a drop miss, be like, "Oh, it's all over the toilet seat. Sorry."
It looks like Ghostbusters in here.
You know,
could you be confident with that cup of cum?
What if
you just be like, "I got it. It's the cum."
They expect you to be in there for a long time, maybe like some people, because it's a fucking weird place to do that. So you'd have time if you wanted to get like a couple loads out. You could.
They look a lot at your at like the density of it. Like I don't think they count every sperm.
Yeah.
They just want to know like a subsample. I wonder if you put a second and third load in there, if it would hurt your numbers.
Oh, fuck, you're right.
Are you thinking that those later loads won't be as dense sperm?
I'll bring some.
I am, but I'm not a scientist. I'm just a guy really good at masturbating.
Well, Look,
Is it like your first test of the
I
day
don't
is
think
the
it would
one
matter.
that's supposed to get tested?
I
'cause it's
think
got all
so.
this
Like
stuff in it?
they have you save up for a couple of days, and I think your first load is your best effort. Like
I
if you
saved up
told
for
me,
over a
Woody,
week.
we're going to run a
Yeah.
100-meter dash, but run 3 of them to get the best time possible. It's like, bro, trust me, they get worse and worse.
Yeah. That's a good comparison. You're right. I'm glad you guys talked me off that ledge before I made a fool of myself at the sperm clinic. I just go there.
He's
they're
been
like,
in
"You have
there
an
for
appointment?"
45
I'm like,
minutes.
I heard you on some
It
bloody
took me a
magazines.
while because I kept getting put off because like it's just a little shitty like doctor's wooden door. I could
Yeah.
hear everyone's conversations in the
Oh,
waiting
that's
room.
hotter.
I know, man,
yeah.
and I'm sort of sitting there like that. I don't give a fuck if you're going to fucking Rachel's barbecue at the weekend, but I don't want to fucking hear about this. I don't want to go. Oh, but we have to go because I said we'd go. I'm trying to have a wank.
You're like yelling
man,
from the room. Talk
Shut
about
the
your pussies.
fuck up.
I'm trying to get this office. I'm trying to get out of here. Talk about your tits.
I'm spinning barbecue fantasies in my head. Come on. See, I think you guys are masturbating at a lower level than me. I don't think you have my subject matter expertise on this. I could totally spin her conversation
You
into
sound like
fodder.
you sit there with headphones in, listening to like whale song at the right. It must be exactly 68 hertz to achieve like peak spell count or something.
It's like, have you ever seen that old King of the Hill where Hank has to give sperm and the doctor's like, "Mr. Hill, would you like any visual aid?" And he's like, "Oh, yes, if you have popular mechanics, I'd appreciate it." And they're like, "No, Mr. Hill, you have to masturbate in the cup." Yeah, but he has horrible sperm. So when all the pug stuff happened to you, you said you had a YouTube with 8 subscribers. Did you have any plans whatsoever to go into video making before this happened?
YouTube was a stupid side hobby, a dumb side project to do for fun with my friends. But then every time, like I would make some videos, like giving updates and stuff like that, like sort of talking about certain things. And then I was only doing that as a bit of fun. I was like, I'm not making a go of this. But every time I went to court, like I would get in the papers again, subscribers would go up, other YouTubers wanted me on their podcast and to talk to me, and then people would subscribe to me. And then ended up like it was actually Sargon that was like, you should start making videos, like you know what you're talking about and everything, you should just go for it. So I started doing it more and more and featured on other people's channels and kept going back to court for more court dates, and it just grew and grew and grew and grew, and now it's fucking my full-time job now, and I've got a studio and staff and all kinds of stuff now, which I did not expect. This was not planned, because the thing was as well, and like the amount of people that bitch about me going online and like laughing at like leftists and all that stuff all the time, is they get angry about it, and I'm like, you know that the reason that I'm here doing this is because you wouldn't let me get a fucking job.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to just go back to normal. I tried, like I didn't want to make a go of YouTube, but you wouldn't let me get a job, so I had a shit ton of free time, and guess what I did with it? And then it turned out it got popular. So basically it's their fault. Everything I've said and every bit of trouble I've got in since is their fault.
Yeah, you could be working at Joe's Pawnery or whatever the fuck.
I
But they wouldn't let you.
nothing to do with it.
I should be the arsehole bouncer again. I should be doing the doors in Glasgow. That's what I should be doing. But no, I'm fucking on YouTube now. That was I did
great,
try and
man.
go back to normal. I didn't want. That was the thing, is see, being in the public eye and all that type of shit. I was like, I kind of don't like this. I don't like people I don't know knowing about me and all this shit. And all, man, like tons of people know my name. I don't like that and all that. And it was just kind of weird. So I
It is
wanted
weird.
to go back to normal, but
It's weird
Nah.
when you meet them. Like you meet someone to you that's a total stranger, but
yeah,
they know a lot about you. It's
yeah.
an information disadvantage. It's
This
awkward.
is my favorite kind of people.
Some of them are funny. I had one guy that came up to me in the street and went like that, "Count Dankula, I've seen your balls." And I was like, yeah. Hello? Like, good to meet you too, man. Yeah.
Well, it seems like it's worked out pretty well with your success on YouTube. You got almost 1 million subs. Is there any more fallout you might have to deal with from the pug prank, or is that in the past?
Everyone's still absolutely convinced that I'm a Nazi. It's how long has it been? This is 2022. This is fucking like 6 years.
Yeah.
6 years ago, like fucking, and people are still fucking going on about it. Like, I would have done something so much better if that was my intention. Like, no, at no point would I have done this and went, yes, this is propaganda. People will definitely take
Step one,
seriously.
the dog.
Yeah, the dog. Yeah,
You would have
Lure
been
them in with
Hitler's
a cute
top
animal.
guy.
No, but that was like, but the problem is I did this to sort of counteract it. Everyone goes, "Oh, you made that video," and then I post the other video that I made of me teaching my black pug to salute whenever I say black power, and whenever I say "fuck the police," he gets dead excited and everything as well, and all that. And I'm going, well, this obviously means that I'm a black supremacist and I support BLM, and they go, well, that's not the same because dumb fucking reasons.
Yeah.
There's no argument after that.
It's like,
but,
guys, come on. He's clearly just doing anything that requires a salute that a dog
You
could be
need a
capable of.
chihuahua. You could go far with that. There's a lot of
the
jokes.
Chihuahua. The part of the meta comedy of it is, even though like pugs, that is definitely not something that they are, because their lungs are in their fucking ears. Like, they're just like, it's just the most genetic abomination. Like, if there's any animal where you have to get a part of its throat removed if you want it to live past 8 years, it's not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
It's not like they're a fucking abomination. But
That's part of his character to overcome. Yeah. What? King of the Hill is coming back. I hope that Mike Judge has a lot to do with it. I hope that he's still the writer, the head honcho, because so much of like King of the Hill is like his brainchild. Like, it's the brainchild of Mike Judge. So as long as he's super involved, it'll be good.
I'm curious about how they'll handle, like, will the characters be, ageless like The Simpsons? Do they just come back and Bobby's still a little kid? And
I hope so.
And Joseph is like is 13. He just hit puberty still. Is Lady Bird still a fucking live? Or is it like, are we catching up? And Bobby's like junior propane salesman.
Dad, I'm trans now. Oh, Bobby, you're not doing that liberal stuff in my home.
That is my purse.
That's good.
That's good.
That. Yeah, so I hope
don't let Mike Judge hear that. He'll do it.
World.
Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
I hope it's the same fucking thing, because I would not. I want it to be reminiscent of the old show. It's such like a feel-good show for me. I want the characters to be the same.
I liked how basic it was, and yet still just utterly funny. Like, The Simpsons had this Homer accidentally got abducted by aliens and then became the US president, and like all this wacky shit. Whereas there was a whole episode of King of the Hill of Hank trying to figure out who kept putting their trash in his bin. Yeah. And it was a funny fucking episode and all. Like, it's fucking.
It was a lot more grounded.
It is. Yeah, more slice of life.
Yeah, yeah. They seemed like real people some of the time, and that's pretty damn good. A lot of the characters are dead. Not a lot, but several of the characters are dead now. The voice actors.
Oh, really? Who else other than? I mean, Luann died in the middle of the run.
What's his name? The musician that was in like so many episodes. I can't remember who it was.
Not one of the core four main guy. Oh, the guy who's the like Walmart.
Yeah, he's like the fucking
person in there.
Something like that. I thought it was Luann's boyfriend. It was him. It was that loser that Luann always dated. It doesn't matter since she's dead. But yeah, I look forward to seeing the show again. Haven't seen it forever. I don't rewatch it.
Mangione. Yeah.
I don't ever. That's Chuck Mangione was the one always playing the trumpet or whatever in the show.
The Megalomart. Yeah. Sponsor or spokesperson.
I don't know. I honestly don't long for it or anything. I thought it was okay watching it, but I've never gotten obsessed with it. Like rewatched it over and over the way I have so many other shows. Woody, did you finish For All Mankind?
I've the first half of season 2 is where I am.
Okay, yeah. Still highly recommend that show to anybody who hasn't seen it. I've watched it all. There's 3 seasons out on Apple TV.
You know what's new along those lines? Kyle, I got a thing. You mind? They've come up with a male contraceptive pill. Like there's a pill for guys that's in late FDA trials, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I'll give the link to you guys. You can see it too. There have been a number of attempts at a male pill for some time now, but it always fucks with your testosterone. And I think this aspect of it is interesting in that it makes guys moody and like there's mood swings and maybe pimples or something else. I forget
So
what it
it's
was.
like the female one.
Yeah, like the female one. But for guys, they deem that an unacceptable side effect because guys don't get pregnant. The threshold for what an acceptable side effect is lower. But should it be? Right? You know, like do couples get pregnant or do women get pregnant?
Women get pregnant.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. So you agree with the doctors.
Yes.
There are some people who feel like this is the patriarchy, you know, with its foot on the back of women's necks.
It's the opposite of that. Women get pregnant. She's the one who decides if she stays pregnant. She's the one who gets to decide whether we check that box from fetus to baby. She decides when that happens.
My biggest problem with the male pill, my biggest problem with the male pill is I don't like the idea of about to enter a woman and she looks up to me and says, "Oh, have you got a condom?" And then I have to look her in the eye and say, "It's okay. I'm on the pill." I would just immediately feel like a giant pussy. She would instantly dry up.
Yeah.
Like she would call me a taxi or something, man. Like, and no, I couldn't say that.
I mean,
to
the
a woman.
problem with that is
Exactly.
no woman in the world should ever believe a man who tells you he's on the pill.
Well, that goes goes both ways.
yeah.
But this thing that I remember this quote from the article:
Useless.
since men do not have to suffer the consequences of pregnancy, the threshold for side effects from the birth control pill is pretty low. That's why we're trying to develop a non-hormonal birth control pill to avoid hormonal side effects. And I'm not an expert in this, but apparently they found out that like semen production is somehow tied to vitamin A. So they found a specific vitamin A blocker. I don't know what other effects this has.
Freaky. You need
Right?
Vitamin
for
A.
something.
I don't know what you need it for, but I trust that you do because you can buy a pill.
Yeah.
First
But,
production.
But
I guarantee it's necessary for something important.
maybe sperm production.
Yeah, and then that's it.
But anyway, yeah, they found that like you can. Vitamin A is a nutrient important to vision, growth, cell division, reproduction, and immunity. Well, anyway,
immune system and vision and your skin as well.
they're
Cell
finding that the
division.
side effects are pretty chill. I don't know. Maybe this will be 10 years from now. They'll find that there's more, and
Where's
it's
the
a way
market?
for guys to not be fertile without having like mood swings and the fucking depression pills that women suffer.
What's the
through.
use case for this product? Who's the man who's like, great, just perfect.
Guys
for me.
who like raw dogging without being dads. That's a quarter of the podcast right now.
That's true.
no. Well, I mean that's the desired effect, but how are we ever going to make that be a thing? The woman's not going to trust you if she trusts.
Hell,
the
there
man who
are
says he's
some
on the
people
pill,
having sex
you
with
don't.
people they trust.
Well, no. What Kyle is saying is that
Don't
and
ever
this is-
trust any man who tells you he's on the pill.
What if you live with
Exactly.
him?
And
What if you're
men?
married to him?
So it doesn't. So Kyle is
Okay,
right
so we're talking
in
about,
that.
so now it's for married men. So that's a very niche market of married men who are like, I'm not going to take they're not going to take the pill. No one's going to
Well,
want.
hold on. The core point of it, and Kyle's right, men wouldn't take the pill, is that the reason that women are more likely to take the pill is that they physically bear the brunt of the childbearing. So there's like a real threat of, I will be pregnant, I need to take this. Men, that's ancillary to them, especially if they're just having a hookup or something. They weren't concerned before. They're going to go through extra steps to do it now. Like I just don't
get
see
you.
the use. Yeah.
In the hookup market, there's a lot of complications going on. There's also STDs that you're trying to avoid that might make you want to take condoms. Or there's trust issues involved if this person is new to you. But there are tons of people in committed relationships who don't want a baby right now. Maybe they want one in the future. Maybe they've had their boy and their girl and they just don't want babies anymore. So guys are looking at a non-surgical option for infertility, or women are looking at an option that doesn't involve like depression and mood swings and weight gain and all that bullshit.
Vasectomy seems better than like taking a pill forever.
It's a terrible idea if you're the kind of person who is in, let's just say, a committed relationship, but it is not time to have a child, or one of you does not want children. What we're talking about is ruining some people's lives with a child, because there's no going back, right? I mean, there is, but like we're pretending that she's not going to
Not
abort
after
this
9
child.
months.
That once she's impregnated, that's it. We're having a child.
Right.
You shouldn't be trusting one form of birth control anyway. Like sure, add this to the pile if you mix, but a man should never trust this for his primary birth control, and a woman should never trust this as her primary form of birth control. And so there's no purpose for this. There's going to be no women who are like,
Why couldn't it be in even that scenario? It sounds like you want more than one barrier.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, that's
one of them.
I mean, I would never take it. I would never take that pill and potentially mess with my hormones even a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm
It doesn't do that. It messes
They
with
say
your
it
vitamin
doesn't.
A.
Yeah, they say
I
it
don't-
doesn't.
I don't know
They
what the
said- they said
consequences of that
Chantix
is.
didn't make people
I
kill
don't know.
themselves.
I don't know what the consequences of tampering with my vitamin A are. I know that like we measure my vitamin A with a comprehensive blood test every couple months, and if it's off, it's gonna be a problem.
No, now Kyle, riddle me this: if your vitamin A came back as 0, would Derek be concerned?
Yes,
Yeah,
they're really concerned. And they
No,
would,
but
there would
Kyle,
be
it's
talks.
only for cell division. Which is like
I need
everything.
cells so badly.
Maybe it cures cancer.
But what I'm saying
But
is like this is a product with no good like market, because no men are like, ooh, I'll go to the doctor and ask about fucking blanks, the pill that makes me shoot blanks, whatever like trendy name they're going to give this nonsense. No guy's ever going to do that, and no
there's
woman
not a
is going to.
I think if it's a product that people want to take, then whatever, they can take it. Like I just personally
Oh,
wouldn't.
I'm not stopping people from taking it. I'm just saying it's a stupid fucking product.
I don't think any of us care about it that way. It's just like I look at it and I'm like, this is a product with no market, at least.
Yeah, I think
in
it's
the
a
US.
Great product.
But there's
Would
no
you take it?
there's no direct market for it, because in a couple scenario or a hookup scenario, the woman is going to be the one who principally wants to do this. And so there will be an understood norm that the woman is still the one who takes primary responsibility with birth control. Like women know that they have to do that because guys don't deal with the brunt of it, so they're more lax with it.
You know what?
What if
You
the
know what?
guy
I'm
doesn't
protect-
want to trust the woman? What if the guy thinks, oh, she could baby trap me?
Yeah.
He wears a condom.
Yeah, he'd wear a condom.
If
But
you-
then
if
he
you're
has to
fucking a
wear a
woman who-
condom.
You have to wear a condom if you're fucking a woman who might baby trap you anyway.
Don't fuck
what
women who might
lies is
baby
she going
trap
to
you.
weave that are going to get me to take that condom off? Wear a condom.
If
Wear
before
a
you're about to
condom.
fuck, you're like, man, I need to go through this set of procedures to ensure this unstable bitch doesn't ruin my life, you shouldn't be there.
And
shouldn't
just
be
as
with
much
that
so,
person.
like, and it's not
Get
just
out of
that,
there.
but like we're viewing this from the viewpoint of like, man, I would hate to have to like pay child support. But there's plenty of women, this will ruin your fucking life too. Like have a kid at 22 and have that guy like disappear and send you a check for $1,500 every month and see how the rest of your life goes.
Yeah.
Right? That's going to be a rough trajectory.
So
I
they'll-
like
they'll-
that guy that I was talking about, that black guy who gives like dating advice. Like women call and they ask like, what do men want? I want this kind of man. How do I get that kind of man? And he
He's
like breaks
dead.
it and he breaks it down. He ain't dead.
The guy you sent me, I Googled him. He died of a heart attack like less than a year ago.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so
I don't-
whatever, Samuels, whatever his name is, look him up. Like
He
that's what I saw.
died?
Yeah, he died of a heart attack.
Oh, he was like 52. Dude,
I hope
he's-
that he goes, who's the bodybuilder who's making videos like 3 times a week?
I'm watching so many of his videos right now, like
What's
one
his
after
name?
another.
Rocky Mountain something or
Oh yeah, Rocky
Oh,
Mountain
you're
Fitness,
talking
whatever
about
the fuck.
the
Mountain Dog.
bodybuilder?
Yeah.
Mountain Dog. Yeah,
Mountain Dog. Yeah, that guy's got more content than ever. He's not even slowing down.
Been dead
Yeah,
for a year.
He was talking to
18
this,
months.
he was talking to a this woman who had a kid. She was like, I don't know.
But I do like that the Scottish people are like,
Will not
we'll try
stand
again in a
this.
few years, in a few generations. Maybe he'll marry a big Icelandic broad.
Oh, well, we're about to have another referendum soon as well, that's another sensitive subject. There's a lot of things here you can't fucking talk about, by the way, unless you want to get into a fight. But the
Really?
referendum is another vote about whether or not we're going to be an independent country.
Oh,
And all
what do you
that,
where do
so,
you
yeah.
stand on that? Because that's a weird one. With Brexit, I think that there was a lot of buyer shock. When they saw what they had actually voted for.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. Obviously, I'm on the other side of the fucking Atlantic.
I don't
But
fucking know.
seemingly, it seems like there was a lot of buyer shock afterwards. Like, oh no, we fucked up.
There was a specific reason for that. It wasn't so much like we fucked up. We knew there would be teething problems. Like you don't just cause like this upheaval and then expect everything's going to go smoothly and perfectly. Like there's going to be a lot of bumps in the road. But the problem is the EU were not playing ball with us when it came to like trade and like rules and everything like that. And then they basically like we were going, EU, you're supposed to do this. Can you do this, please? The EU was going, no, and then it was fucking us up. But then everyone's like, look what
You think
Brexit
they were-
did, and they were like, it's them. They did it. And speaking of the IRA, speaking of the IRA again. Now, this is a little funny thing, and that like the EU is trying to fuck us up with this, but they have no fucking idea the problems this would cause. Basically, the reason that the IRA are still there, they're still out there, but they don't do much anymore. But they're watching and waiting, and that's because of the Good Friday Agreement, right? Basically, the British government and the IRA sat down together and made like this final peace deal. We'll stop the bombing, stop the attacks, stop the war. and everything will be fine. And there was a few stipulations, like, for example, release every single IRA prisoner and all that, which I believe was granted. Not all. They got most, but not all. But then there was also no hard border in Northern Ireland, right? So the Irish could come and go as they pleased in Northern Ireland. Anyone could come in, anyone could come out. Now, because Britain has now left the European Union, the EU are now saying there must now be a hard border in Northern Ireland. The problem is the EU are saying you must now do that. That violates the Good Friday Agreement, which means that the contract has been broken and the IRA would come back.
So they have to think very carefully about how they handle that.
So it's like, the thing is, the EU, everyone in Europe who does not fucking understand the situation is going, but there must be a hard border, and everyone in Britain and even everyone in Ireland is going, no, do not fucking do that. And everyone's like, see, anyone who like lived through the 80s and 90s and like remembers just hearing about like daily bombings and all that shit, like nobody wants to return to that, but the EU are just, it's almost like they're trying to do it on purpose, because they're like, you wanted to leave, so I'm just going to like reawaken a terrorist group to fucking bomb you. At least you can fish in your own water. Man, like fucking yeah. So yeah, that's really dodgy.
I don't know any of this stuff at all. Do you guys? What do you got?
I do remember. I'm old enough to remember the bombings, and it made the news all the time. That was back before you chose your own news. You just watched what was on TV.
Yeah,
and there was always like some bar or some restaurant or whatever. There were just car bombings, bombing. Molotov cocktails were like a big thing.
Yeah.
I think you misunderstood. I knew about the IRA. I was meaning I didn't know about that border. Like, I didn't know it would matter that much, that like having a hard border would like.
I didn't know about that detail.
Like, well, okay, we're turning back on now.
I'm well aware that when Brexit came out, I'm no longer here. I was pro-Brexit, so I'm really like forgiving of other people that were pro-Brexit who just didn't understand how complicated it was. I heard independence, and my dumbass American ass was like, "Yeah, I like it. Let's do independence." This is like kind of most Americans default to the position of like more freedom, more independence, etc. And now that I understand just what a like tangled knot they're trying to unweave, it's like there is no good solution to do this well. You can't do it without pissing so many people off that it was better where it was, I think.
No,
you disagree?
I disagree. No, definitely was the best reason, because it was we were definitely better off leaving, because see the amount of laws that were getting passed in the EU that we like had to follow through on. If there was any money that they demanded, we had to pay it, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, but we got some money back," and I'm like, "Yeah, but we were paying like so fucking much in." And all that, and then everyone's like, "Oh, in exchange, you get to use the trade," and it's like, "Well, why can't we just negotiate our own trade contracts?" Like, there's even like weird, stupid limits, because I've been there in the EU Parliament. They have no fucking idea what they are doing. No idea. If there's anything that is to be regulated, they will try to regulate it. Like, the day I was in, and this was when we were doing the Article 13. So I'm there in the Strasbourg court, like in the big room where they do the vote. Like, I'm essentially in the European Senate. I'm sitting in there. They were voting on regulations about how long Polish candle makers were allowed to make the wicks. And I'm Google it. I'm not making that up, right? That is some of the dumb shit. Some of the other stuff as well is, any of this certain type of drink product must only come in 330 milliliter and 500 milliliter cans or bottles. But then there was this weird fucking custom drink in Japan that makes its own bottles that don't fit that. So then the EU had to pass another resolution to this bill to allow this one specific drink from Japan to like be able to be shipped into and sold in the EU. It's so stupid. Like, and that's the type of shit that we have to contend with. And everyone goes, "Oh, but you get your veto. You get your little fucking veto." But this is the problem: is Europe are massively fucking left wing. Apart from the eastern parts of Europe, from Eastern Europe, right? Mainland Europe are overwhelmingly left-wing, and they are passing like left-wing laws over right-wing places. So the right-wing places, that's why you're getting Hungary and Budapest and all these other fucking Bulgaria, Romania are all going, fuck this. Like, we are sick of this fucking shit. We want to fucking leave. And it's because it's became overwhelmingly left wing, like in the EU, and that's why it's crumbling, because it's not a balanced system here in both sides of the aisle. It's one side of the aisle going, here's the laws, you're getting them, tough shit. Here's Article 13. This just passed fucking overwhelmingly, where we're going to create essentially a great filter like they have in China to moderate online content. Right, and even,
great filter. Okay.
Yeah. It was basically, that was Article 13. They've changed the name of it now, but like that passed
Something
overwhelmingly.
less scary, I hope.
Yeah.
We're calling it the doomsday device now.
Right. Well, the same day I was in, they were voting. They were voting on a resolution about AI weapons, whether or not it would be okay for them to continue research into AI weapons, and it passed. So they're going to, yeah,
that won't backfire.
Yeah,
it's incredible. Like
that's how many movies start.
You sound like the subject matter expert on it, and I'm not. But it's super hard to be an actual subject matter expert on all this shit. You know, all the tangled web that is the EU and the countries in it, and who's going to get mad if you do different. If you pull out, people are going to be really mad. And as you mentioned with that, border, if you stay in, as you articulated, people are going to be really mad. So what do you do?
Well, I think it's a case of it should never have happened in the first place. Like all this,
the EU should have never.
It shouldn't have happened in the first place. Like I think it started initially as just a big trade agreement thing. Trade agreement, whatever, that's fine. But then, see, as soon as you have another country able to have some semblance of say of what laws get passed in your country over like a completely different culture, like there's like people. The amount of times that I see, like, I argue with leftists online, like, all the time, and people bitch about, oh, they just drew random borders in Africa and mixed cultures together and caused wars and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's what the EU's doing. They're passing, like, they're culturally different. People, people in Czechoslovakia have a completely different, fucking not there anymore, Czech Republic, like, have a completely different view on, like, the way society should be than people in England or people in France and all that. But then they're passing laws over these, and it's just causing conflict. Like, that's why I think, Scottish laws for Scottish people, English laws for English people, like that type of stuff, because who's going to know better how to govern themselves than themselves?
Yeah, it makes sense. The more local it gets, the closer it is to the person being impacted.
Exactly.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to be under Canadian. We wouldn't want Canada to be able to, create a law that we were, supposed to follow. I don't even like the laws that we come up to follow. Like, I don't want to follow some.
No.
You might have lost your audio. Kyle.
I lost you on Mexican laws, but he said he doesn't want to follow Mexican laws.
Your audio is definitely off, Kyle.
You cut out. Maybe this is a silly question, but like as an American, like I see the whole thing, like the UK, like I've seen that graphic where it's like, oh, here's the UK, here's Great Britain, here's like all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I know Scotland and Ireland, not too fond of England in a lot of ways. Is there any bad blood between the Irish and the Scottish, or are you guys kind of like, hey, we're in this together somewhat?
Well, Scottish Catholics and Irish Catholics get along. We're essentially ethnically and culturally the same. Scottish Protestants and Irish Protestants get along. Same thing. Apart from basically the Catholics hate the Protestants and the Scots hate and love the Irish, it just depends. But there's a lot of weird shit that most people don't know about. Like, we've got segregated schools, we've got Catholic schools, and we've got Protestant schools. I'm sorry, you're not supposed to call them Protestant schools. They're called non-denominational schools, but they're Protestant schools. Yeah.
What is... So, as an outsider, this seems like a very silly and mild thing to disagree over, right? What kind of Christian you are? You're all Christians, right? Like
very different.
It goes a lot deeper.
What is the difference? Like culturally, you live in the same places. You have the same blood in you. You look the same. You talk the same. What are you angry about?
It's a case of Catholics, believe in God and believe in the Pope. They like the Pope and see the Pope as the messenger of God. Protestants see whatever king or queen they have as sort of like the Pope. They are the messenger of God. In some cases, they are God. Now, the Protestants loved the royal family, and the royal family decided to go in and fuck Ireland up. Right? So that's the problem. And then also they took a big chunk of it in like the northeast. And The Irish didn't like that. It turns out people don't like being invaded.
Yeah.
Let me repeat this back and see if I have it right.
Yeah.
It's not actually about being Catholic or Protestant. It could be orange hats and green hats. The problem is that historically, orange hats and green hats have never treated each other nicely.
No,
it's not about.
I mean, you got to look at
agreements.
the core differences are huge, though, right? It was Martin Luther, right, who nailed the shit to the church and then and separated. And the whole idea is the Catholic Church is set up to be this fucking oligarchy, right, with these priests and these popes between you and God.
Yep.
And the Protestants are saying that is a scam. They have set up a business between you and God. You can talk to God without paying a guy to handle the switchboard. Okay. Anytime you want to talk to the creator of the universe, look up and start talking. You don't need to pay that guy. Oh, and by the way, you also can't pay him when you go off and steal and rape and murder and pillage. You can't buy, a plea from your sins with God. You have to talk to him about that. Not a guy here. Huge difference, and I don't know. Was it 1,000 years of people fighting and dying over it?
No, you hit the
time.
religious differences there. Like you hit a big one right on the head. And if you believe that with like your whole heart, that's a huge difference of like basically one party saying like, that's why the church hated Luther so much. Cause looking back, you go, oh, he nailed some edicts to the door, whatever. But it was basically him saying, you're all frauds. You're all scam artists. Everyone. Hey, I'm the James Randi of hundreds of years ago. I'm calling bullshit on this. And of course, the Catholics are like, it's not just that Luther they hated everyone who was attempting, in their view, to subvert
James
the
Randi
influence.
The guy who proved psychics were fake?
Yeah.
Okay. I do know him.
Yeah.
Zach, can you
Let me get my baby powder out real quick. You see the guy start sweating.
The old James Randi clips where he tricks those magicians are so fucking funny. So good.
I'm sorry. I just didn't think everyone got your reference.
Oh yeah,
I didn't, and I appreciate you. You get me there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That would be the best gig on earth. Just being the guy in the 70s who was like, all of these magicians are fake. I'm going to make that my gig. Disproving a 70s magician who never looked anything up online. That's James Randi. That's the wizard himself.
Didn't one of the guys that he
That's not how I
disproved
remember him.
go on to become like a fucking child murderer or something like that?
I mean, he just proved so many that after a while.
Yeah, I think it was the guy that done the phone book.
What happened to his
can make the
pinky?
page of the phone
It looks
book
like it
turn.
withered.
Dank, are you familiar with the Bible? Like, or did you just like go to religious schools and like they kind of drilled it in your head, but you didn't?
They drilled that into my head, but I was just kind of like, it's not for me. So yeah.
Okay. When I was a kid, I was in the same situation, except I was so goddamn scared of hell. I was like anal about it. Like, I got to take this serious. This is real. Like and I remember as a kid, like my thought process being like the teacher would say something in Sunday school or whatever about like hell's very real and people will end up there if they don't believe in Jesus. And it is torture for all eternity. Now let's talk about Job, or let's talk about Jonah and the whale. And I remember like all the other kids, like the teachers, the parents, they just kind of move on. And I would be like the one person who like was treating it like it was truly real in my head, where I'm like, guys, we can't be talking about Jonah. Hell is coming imminently. We need to be prepared for this. We need to be going for the big fish first, guys. And over getting older, I was like, damn, if a lot of these people really believed this, they would have been acting like I was as a kid. Like, God, hell is there. It's imminent. We need to, everything we do needs to be fixated on not ending up in hell. What could matter in this material plane? There are people like that.
There are people
but the people who told
when
me,
you see them, when we see the people who believe, we stop and go, oh, that's not a real Christian. When you see a real Christian, the rest of them in the room are like, oh, he's not one of us.
Yeah.
Because the guy who actually reads that book and does what it says cannot survive in mainstream life anymore. Like you can't live that way. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
See, one of the things that I do videos on like Celtic myths and stuff like that, because a lot of them are like dying out and a lot of people don't know about it. But there was one story where it's like Celtic myths are things like the Kelpies, which are magical horses that could walk on water, and there's also things like the Nuckalave, where it's like this half man, half horse that had like a breath that would just rain pestilence down and all that. But then there was another story I read, and it's called the Gilly Doo. Right now, the Gilly Doo was a guy that lived in the forest, and he had clothes made of leaves and shit like that, which is where I see ghillie suit. That's where it comes from.
Oh.
Like the ghillie do, right? The guy that was wearing twigs and stuff like that and leaves. And sometimes kids would get lost in the forest. They would come across the ghillie do. The ghillie do would say, well, it's nighttime now. It's too dangerous to go out. Come back to my house. And like the first light in the morning, I'll take you back out. He would feed them. They would go to bed. The next day, they got up. He would lead them to the forest and go, your village is that way. Be more careful in the woods. And I'm like, why is this a fantasy story? That's just a guy that lives in the woods. I was like, see if he was like talking to the animals or like the trees moved when he sang or like moved out the way or there was some...
He's a forest guardian for lost travelers.
He was
just ticket to meet the fairies or something. I was like, this isn't a fantasy story. I completely believe this happened.
I completely believe there was an eccentric lunatic dressed in vines who would say, I'm familiar with this small regional area. Allow me to assist you.
That I live in. Yeah. It's like, this is where I live, my forest. And everyone's like, yeah, this mysterious creature. It's not a mysterious creature. It's some guy that lived in the woods. Like that's all it fucking was. But I never
Maybe that was an early on.
Yeah.
Maybe that was an early on myth before there was a precedent set that they had to be fun. And like they just started telling that one. And then someone pops up later with the pestilent centaur. And then they start moving forward with the good ones. Because I imagine, like, look at the Roman pantheon, the Greek pantheon, rather. They didn't hit that out of the park on the first try, guaranteed. Like they probably had to workshop Zeus and the rest of the cast because that's a way harder thing to hold together than Christianity, where it's kind of one guy and it all comes from him. That's what I remember thinking that was so cool as a kid, and like as a kid being like, obviously this is fake and Jesus is real, but like, man, it would be cool if it was these like semi-mortal people that were in charge. I feel like they'd be able to empathize with me a little more.
With flaws. They're very flawed.
With flaws.
Yeah, and I've said this before, but our modern superheroes are the Greek pantheon. Like it's the same shit. Like, and if you look at the powers of those Greek gods, they're about equivalent to a Marvel superhero. Like
they have
most of these
desires.
guys aren't like. It's not like Zeus comes down and says, water into wine and the earth explodes and you're made of gas now and you're made of trees. Like he can't do that shit. Like he's Zeus. He's the god of fucking thunder. He can change it. He's got powers, but he's not limitless.
But they all have to do with like
all those fucking
getting laid.
Yeah,
some of them are just fast.
Every meme is just like every
Hermes.
Greek story could start with just unfortunately Zeus was horny.
Yeah.
Like every single one.
It is. Every single story about Zeus is like, and then he used his shape-shifting powers to gaslight a woman and fuck her, and 30 million people died. And it's like, oh, okay. Well, and then all of Athens fell into the sea. And it's like, oh, well, this is written by someone from Sparta with some, an axe to grind, probably. It's funny, like thinking how much of history that like we think of as like objective fact is like something that got slipped in there, where some guys like imagine like Alexander the Great was most likely gay, but imagine if he was like a fucking conservative priest, like pastor level, like I'm not gay. I'm gonna suck a dick in front of you to show you how much I don't like it. Like that level of thing. Like it would be funny if like one of his enemies slipped that in after the fact. Like he's a great warlord, this and that. Yeah, but his buddy Paris, he was fucking him in the ass. Did you hear about that? No. But this is the year 300 800 BC. Throw it in.
Was it Nero? Was it Nero that had a femboy?
It was.
Yeah,
it was now that's the right one. It's obviously not the name I said, but
yeah, I can't remember. It was Caligula or Nero, one of the two. Yeah. But basically, his wife died, and he was beyond distraught. But then his little wine boy that brought him his wine, he kind of realized, you look a lot like my wife.
Yeah,
you are
and
my
the more
wife.
Wine you bring me, the more you look like it.
Basically,
so bring me some more wine.
It was basically some weird shit where he fucking like made him grow his hair long and everything, and was going around everyone and was going, this is my wife. You will refer to her by her real name, my wife. And all the Roman soldiers who are terrified of him are like, yes, your wife looks lovely today, Nero. Yes. It was one of those like nobody wanted to say anything. Everyone was too scared.
The emperor has no clothes, moment. Like
it's scary.
I remember I was reading this thing about, there's that old thing about Nero, playing the equivalent of the violin or a fiddle or whatever on the balcony of his palace as Rome was burning, right?
Yeah.
And I was reading this, and this was a while ago. It was some guy who was clearly obsessed with all these emperors, and he's like, little known fact, that's actually false. He wasn't playing the violin while Rome was burning. This is used to malign Nero's character. And then like the next paragraph is like, he was in the basement molesting children while it burned. Like, and it's like, this is worse. Like this is much worse than where we were at a few minutes ago. But
I was like, that's what it's
show.
one of those famous things that ends up becoming like a fucking like urban legend. And one of the ones that, see how you've seen it all, the fucking Pinochet throwing communists out of helicopters, like me, and everyone. Turns out all of that's bullshit.
Really, Pinochet didn't throw communists out of helicopters.
He murdered a lot of fucking people. The man loved a firing squad. Like he killed a shit ton of fucking people. But as for like the way the story goes is he would take them up in his helicopter and he would either shoot them in the head before he threw them or just throw them straight out. But it was to send a message or a warning to the other communists of this is what will happen to you. But the only source for it was his helicopter pilot. Now, if he's thrown it out above cities and everything as a warning, someone's going to see it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you're throwing it above a city, people might go, why is my car absolutely fucking obliterated with a dead guy, like just lying in the middle of it? Someone would have said something. So you see how the whole comment, instead, he lined them up and shot them. But as for the helicopter thing, turns out that's all just a lot of shit. It was apparently
inefficient
some shit.
To kill someone anyway.
Yeah,
it'd be wildly inefficient. It would take so much fuel to just be like, oh my god, we're losing the battle because of the amount of helicopter fuel we're spending. But Pinochet, he's a man who has his own sort of sadistic style. I imagine he was all about fascism. That guy. He was
the reason cocaine like fucking exploded, because cocaine, what was he again? He was Chile. He was Chile, but basically a lot of the cocaine production was down there, right? But not a lot of people had like the connections to get it like to Europe, America, blah blah blah. It was mostly, you know, little small time connections. But then basically whenever they came across like a drug compound, everyone get lined up and shot. There was no trial, no fuck all, you were dead. And so they decided to go, maybe we'll move to another country where there's maybe some kind of due process instead of just us immediately, as soon as we're caught, we're forced to dig our own graves. Like that type of shit. So they ended up going up to like fucking Colombia, and that's when they ended up meeting with fucking what's his name? Pablo Escobar and all the other people, and that's how cocaine. They had the connections because they already had smuggling routes into America, and that's how cocaine became big. So you've got Pinochet to fucking thank for that, and also the CIA a little bit.
Couldn't have done it without the CIA.
Yeah, of course.
That's interesting. I feel like I'm learning a lot tonight.
I know so much useless information. That's all I talk about on my channel. Here is some shit that will better your life in no way for the next hour. But tell women this on Tinder. They love it.
Well, there's a market for the red pill women thing now. You can get on the Andrew Tate grind and get a bunch of views that way.
Oh, you know what's new along those lines? Kyle, I got a thing. You mind? They've come up with a male contraceptive pill. Like there's a pill for guys that's in late FDA trials. And I thought it was pretty interesting. I'll give the link to you guys. You can see it too. There have been a number of attempts at a male pill for some time now, but it always fucks with your testosterone. And I think this aspect of it is interesting in that it makes guys moody, and like there's mood swings and maybe pimples or something else. I forget what it was.
Like the female one.
Yeah, like the female one. But for guys, they deem that an unacceptable side effect because guys don't get pregnant. The threshold for what an acceptable side effect is lower. But should it be? Right? You know, like do couples get pregnant or do women get pregnant?
Women get pregnant.
Okay, yeah. So you agree with the doctors. Yes. There are some people who feel like this is the patriarchy, you know, with its foot on the back of women's necks.
It's the opposite of that. Women get pregnant. She's the one who decides if she stays pregnant. She's the one who gets to decide whether we check that box from fetus to baby. She decides when that happens.
My biggest problem with the male pill. My biggest problem with the male pill is I don't like the idea of about to enter a woman and she looks up to me and says, "Oh, have you got a condom?" And then I have to look her in the eye and say, "It's okay. I'm on the pill.
pill.
I would just immediately feel like a giant pussy.
You think that's your worst injury ever?
Probably. I have been stabbed before, but
Well, how did that happen?
How and why?
it was while I was on a date. So it's
Was it with your own girlfriend?
No. It was
No.
it was a girl. I was single, and it was a girl that I had a bit of an interest in, and basically like we were going to like get some. We went to like the local Asda, which is like our Walmart, and we were just getting some like sweets and crisps and stuff like that. And we were going to go watch films. You know, this was in the days of DVDs though, so it wasn't Netflix and chill. Sure. I was basically going to hope to look at the DVD symbol bouncing around the screen, you know, that type of thing. But it's a long story. I'm not going to go into the full history, but there was a guy that I had a long running problem with. Right, basically, he would get me, I would get him, he would get me, I would get him.
Bit of a rival.
Blah. Yeah. So I'm just sitting outside Asda, just like talking to her, and she like jumped and shouted like Marcus, and I went like, what? Like not realizing there was a guy. He was running up behind me, and I felt like he punched me in the side. Right, but it was like when someone taps your shoulder and you turn that way, but they've ran the other way. So I felt this in my side. I turned that way, but he'd ran that way, and I turned around. And as soon as I saw the back of his head, I knew who it was. I thought he punched me. Like I thought he'd fucking punched me. So I'm sitting shouting at him, like fucking like giving him pelters, and then my fucking great. But like she then starts like screaming, and I just look down, and you just see like blood just like soaking my shirt and everything.
Can you
I
describe the injury? Like, how did he get you?
It was a screwdriver. It was a screwdriver that he got me with. But the way it was is like, see if it went straight in, like say that's my stomach. If it went in like that, then I was in like serious trouble. But he got me at like an angle, so it was just all flesh. It was all flesh that he fucking
was
got.
Like somehow both deep and shallow. Like there was a long injury, but I follow.
You lucked out.
It could have been really bad. If he got it straight in, then it could have been really fucking bad. But it went in my side and like to the front of my stomach. It was all just fat and everything that it had. And the thing was I didn't know what to do. So I looked down at it and I looked up at the girl and I just started laughing. Oh man, and I just went, and she's freaking out, and I'm like, calm down. It's fine. And
so what did you do? Did you get real medical attention or just apply pressure and heal?
People, I put pressure on it, and people ran out of Asda like freaking out, and everyone going, "Oh my god, someone's just been stabbed!" and everyone. And then but then like ended up like I get taken in an ambulance. The cops talked to me. I didn't tell the cops shit because, well, if you do, it could be a lot worse. But ended up like I did say to the girl like, "I need to go to hospital." I had a great time though. And maybe we should do this again, like making all the usual jokes. She never spoke to me again. Never, because I'm trying to explain the situation. People are going, "Oh, that's a guy I've got a problem with. This happens sometimes." Man,
we're in a prank war.
If you date me, it'll never be boring.
Damn.
Fuck yeah.
Just casually got stabbed.
Thank you.